What's up, and welcome to 5280 Film Room.
We're a Colorado sports podcast by fans for fans.
Please subscribe, rate, and review, and also follow us on Facebook and Instagram.
You can also email us your input, questions, and ideas at 5280filmroom@gmail.com.
Thanks for listening. What's up, Colorado sports fans? Thank you so much for listening to 5280 Film Room.
Woo!
I'm Alyssa.
I'm Gideon.
I'm Miles.
And I'm Jordan.
And right now we are watching the Nuggets playing the Phoenix Suns. And there is no Nikola Jokic on the court. Why is that, gentlemen?
He gets suspended.
Yeah, he got suspended because there's a... if there's a player on the bench that clears the bench and comes out onto the court during a on-the-court altercation, they get suspended. But apparently it doesn't happen to every player.
That seems to be the kind of hot button discussion right now among Nuggets fans, is these punishments were handed down, and they're incredibly inconsistent with other instances in the league that have happened throughout the year, with more
there's that superstar,
notable players.
quote-unquote, stigma that happens where they just get the benefit of the doubt every now and then.
Well, and if you suspend one of the faces of the league, it's not good for the league. But that's also like a big giant load of bullcrap.
Well, and also, like, on the other side, there were technically, like, 4 or 5 Nuggets that had crossed that imaginary line.
Threshold.
Yeah.
Jokic was the furthest.
Oh,
but...
yeah. Like, he came out the furthest.
Yeah.
But, I mean, technically, by the book, there could have been a lot more suspensions.
Like 3 or 4.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
think Murray was out there pretty far.
Yeah. I mean, when everything happened between Favors and Plumlee occurred, after it started to settle down, like, my initial reaction was like, toss them both. Like, that's
Double
fine.
tech ejections.
I'm okay with that.
Right. Like, that seems like a very clean way.
Yeah, like, the refs wanted to make sure that they were controlling the atmosphere of the game because these two teams are slowly becoming more and more like heated rivals because, one, when the Nuggets were really good back in the late 2000s, most Jazz fans were not Jazz fans, they were actually Nuggets fans.
Yeah.
They didn't really care about the Utah Jazz, but now that they have Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert was Defensive Player of the Year last year, and then Derek Favors has always been a solid veteran that can produce. And then they got Ricky Rubio now, so like they've got some names that they can throw around and be excited about.
Korver's back.
Yeah, Korver's on their team, so he's like one of the best all-time three-point shooters that the NBA's seen. But that was the refs trying to make sure that things weren't getting out of hand. Because what was it, like halfway through the second quarter?
I think it was the first quarter.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I
Like,
kind of can get that perspective
Like,
of wanting to
like if it's gonna be
temper things, to say, hey, no, not gonna continue on like this.
What? How did it all start? I didn't see the game.
I didn't either.
Favors went up for a layup underneath the rim. Plumlee fouled him. It's perfectly good foul.
Happens all the time.
And then Favors, they like got into each other's face, and then Favors like pulled Plumlee's arm to like throw him out of bounds, and then
After the play was dead.
Plumlee
Okay.
kind of charged to him, and then I guess you could theoretically say that Plumlee threw a punch. I don't think he did. I think Favors threw more of a punch than Plumlee did, but I mean, outside of the Jokic suspension, I think the bigger issue that I have with that entire situation was that Plumlee got fined more than Favors did when Favors was the one that continued to escalate the entire situation.
And kind of initiated the situation
Yeah.
from the get-go. And so for him to get fined $15,000 and then Plumlee to get fined $25,000,
it's a little ridiculous.
it's confusing to me.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's confusing to everyone, but being a seasoned Nuggets fan, I'm not surprised. And for all you Nuggets fans out there that are crying over spilt milk, like, you're going to have to expect this from the league. They're not going to treat the Nuggets fair. They've never treated the Nuggets fair because we're not a big name marketplace for basketball. Like, yes, Denver's a cool city and we have all the major sports teams, but we are not considered, a hot spot to be, especially within the basketball world. And I'm not surprised how the league is treating us and our players. And I'm just like, let's move on and let's prove everyone wrong and use this to be motivating and get angry. Like, we got the All-Star break coming up in 2.5 weeks, and after that, pedal to the metal, and everyone's going to be going hard. You're going to see a lot of players around the league start to get hurt because they're playing harder.
Right.
Yeah.
And a little bit of that, you see James Harden. He's dropping 40, 50, 60 points on a nightly basis. It's ridiculous. But that's because he knows the break's coming up and he wants to solidify his position as MVP of the league.
What's crazy is his 300-plus points without being assisted.
Yeah, he's not playing team basketball. But then you look at the Nuggets and we are playing nothing but team basketball.
And that, to me, is what's most impressive.
That's what makes it exciting, and that's why it's for me as a fan, I've moved past Jokic being suspended. We're playing the Suns tonight. DeAndre Ayton's out, so their starting center, don't have to worry about him. Oh no, our starting center just got suspended.
Right.
Give him a break. It sucks that he's got to give up his game check, but we're gonna walk through the Suns, and it's good to give Jokic a little bit of a break. And right now we're in the middle of the third quarter watching this game, and the Nuggets are all the starters for tonight are in double-digit points. We're still continuing to show that even though against a weaker Suns team, which they beat us last week in Phoenix, we are still playing team basketball, and it's nearly unstoppable when we're hitting our shots and making our free throws.
And we don't need a 7-foot point guard to have that aspect. That's just the team.
We've got two
chemistry that we have.
Good-ass point guards.
Yeah.
With Murray and Morris.
you can just tell, the team, they are such a united front. They're rallying around the situation.
Oh, yeah.
It's fine, whatever, we'll take it.
Plumlee's
We're
playing
not going to let it
so he's angry.
break us. Yeah, and he's
not
playing
angry,
really well.
He's fired up.
After the super obvious miscall in that Saints-Rams game, a lot of fans have been calling for, or bringing up the question, players are always held accountable by the media and have to get up on the podium and explain themselves. Why don't officials ever have to do that? And this kind of brought that question to my mind again.
And the
from the
continuity
NBA standpoint of why don't the officials or a representation of the officials at the very least have to take that podium and explain the thought process or explain, kind of the behind the scenes decision making.
Yeah.
As part of their union?
I mean, there should.
I don't think it has anything with the union. I think they literally can't go up and save face by explaining why they made a call they made, because after you look at replays and things like that, it's oh yeah, I missed that call.
And when it's in the heat of the moment,
that's the last thing the league wants is for the referees to admit mistakes. You never, even NFL, NBA, even in the MLB, it's rare, if not unheard of, to see officials speak up and say, we missed that call.
And that's what was so interesting about that specific call in the Saints-Rams game, was the league came out and said
that's the league officials. Wrong. That was the official head. It wasn't the individual officials. It was the officiating president, if you will, the managers or whatever. Those are the guys that admitted it, and we wouldn't have heard of it if Sean Payton didn't bring it up.
Exactly.
It's not like they did
Sean
it in
Payton,
a public setting.
That's true. We got that
come
news
out and make
via Sean Payton.
No.
Yeah.
So it's bad for any sports league for their officials to come out and be like, we made a mistake.
It's also bad for them to make mistakes that impact the biggest game in the league's year.
As a fan, you accept that officials are humans and they don't...
For sure.
They don't get all the angles we get watching TV and things like that. But in that Saints-Rams game, it was blatant. There was 2 officials there. They were looking at each other, and 3 of the officials on the crew are from the LA area. So that begs to the question that, all right, there's something going on behind the scenes. But in the NBA, they've got refs traveling all over the nation with different crews and stuff. They're not stuck together.
They're not set crews like the NFL is.
No. And the NFL, the referee crews aren't full-time either. So, like, there's different situations for different leagues regarding the officiating. But to answer your question, it's, like, definitely bad for the league for your referees to sit in front of a camera and explain themselves.
That would
whether
probably
it's good or bad,
go
it's not
horribly
good
awry
for
very
the league.
quickly.
If they say one thing stupid, then the league will get so
All
much
the fans,
criticism.
the fans will start to leave. They won't like it, and I mean, there's things that we don't like in the Nuggets game. You know, everyone's seeing Plumlee as the aggressor when Favors started it all and escalated things.
I mean, you could call a retaliation by Plumlee, but still. I mean, the arm pull and then the push.
When stuff's starting to go after the whistle, you're not worried about playing the game.
No,
You're worried about, all right, well, is this dude going to come after me? Like, I'm going to go after him before he gets the leg up or whatever. But then, you got 8 other players, 5 people on each team, 2 players involved. You have 8 professional athletes all trying to break it up and things like that. Like, we will never see, a Pacers-Pistons crowd brawl between the players. Like, it's not going to happen, and the NBA has definitely done a good job at making sure nothing escalates to that extreme where, fans are throwing things at players and players are talking to fans. Like, that definitely happens courtside where players and fans start getting into it, but it's not to the point where you're going to see, Meta World Peace going into the and into the stands punching people.
Yeah. And I can definitely empathize with that need as the officiator, as the person that's there to keep things on track and moving and fair and progressing and not getting crazy. Because it's like you give a mouse a cookie type mentality. If you let one thing slide, there will be more. Especially if it's in that first quarter of the game. You're setting yourself and the fans that are there and the players up for trouble.
But, like, my issue is from the fine standpoint because that comes from the league.
Right.
And so by the league saying we're going to fine Plumlee more than Favors and we're going to suspend your guys' star player because he was 6 feet off the bench. Like, all right.
Because they actually have time to look at it.
But if you're gonna fine both players involved, give them equal fines because that was pretty equal scrum, if you will. Right. But by them giving Plumlee another 10 G's on top of it, it's kind of like hey, Nuggets, you guys are doing good. We're going to make sure that you guys stay in check.
It's like making sure you're putting them back in their place, and I don't like that.
You guys aren't supposed to be second in the West. You're supposed to be
don't forget
barely
who you
making
are.
the playoffs. Yeah. And it's like, no, we're not going to lay down for this, and we're going to make a good run into the playoffs. I'm not going to say we're making it to the conference finals. We spoke about this last week. Not saying we're making it to the finals. It is possible, but even Malone has spoken about this, saying that it's most important for this young team to get playoff experience and not even worry about how far they make it or winning a championship, because the true focus is bringing a championship to Denver over the next 2 to 4 years, not this year specifically.
And as cliche as it is in sports, like the one game at a time mentality, that's truly the only way for the Nuggets to look at this right now if they're caring about long-term success and even the success of this season. If they get caught up in hype, they're not going to play well game to game, and it takes a lot of wins to get
good playoff
deep
position
into that. Deep into
and to make
the
a deep playoff run, you have to have home court advantage. It's very rare for a team to be, a 6 or 7 seed and to walk through the other teams at their home court. I'm sure it's happened a couple times in the past, but the majority of championship winning teams had home court advantage throughout the playoffs.
Yeah, that's huge. And it's a 7-game series every series.
Yeah.
And you want to have that extra game.
Because you guarantee it at home, and your crowd's going to come in and be fired up. And I've attended playoff games for the Nuggets and the Rockies, and it's exciting, and our fans definitely show out. You can call them bandwagon fans if you want. I think the majority of our population are, at their core, true fans, but the bandwagoners definitely come out because they're excited and they want to be a part of whatever's going on.
Right.
But yeah, no, playoff sports are really fun to be a part of, and I don't blame the people for not paying attention to specific teams throughout the year, especially with basketball, baseball, and hockey. Those are long seasons, and if there's no reason to be vested into every single game, I can see why there's people that are like, I might see their update on the news or something. Like, cool. But they're not worrying about injuries and who got suspended.
Truly
and then,
following the day-to-day.
Matchups.
The hardcore fans are the ones that, live, breathe, and cry their team. And it's just like, you want to be part of it with the players, even though I know a lot of fans are like, we did this, we did that, but it's like, are you part of the team?
Yeah, right.
Were you implementing the game plan? Like, I get it. Like, I do it. I'm not the only one.
That's one of the most, I think, special things about sports.
It's a connection.
And when the Rockies last season we're doing
we're going
great,
to the playoffs,
and we're just even in that playoff push at the end. I work at an art center, and there's exactly one other sports fan and all of my 70 coworkers. But as the Rockies were in that push, I was getting questions left, right, and sideways every day from people. So wait, I heard the Rockies are doing great. What does this mean? How many games are left? And I personally, I love it when people who are not traditional sports fans have it on their radar of something exciting is happening in my city, and I want to be informed about it.
Yeah,
because it's exciting and
they're missing.
And it's a connection.
At least they
don't want to miss out.
Yeah.
Hardcore FOMO. Everyone wants to feel like they have some sort of stake in it, whether they've paid attention to one game or 10 games.
This is my city.
Or just put together, we have a professional baseball team. There's something that just really unifies, and I love that about sports, whether they're bandwagoners or not. As long as they're not the crazy bandwagoners who show up to one game and the team loses and then they lose their minds and get in fights and cause problems.
Or Utah fans. Your guys' only professional sport is basketball.
Yeah.
That's it. No hockey. No football. You could totally play baseball in Salt Lake City and have the same advantage as Coors Field has, but you don't do it.
It's because they don't have alcohol out there, so people are like,
That's
what's
true.
the point of
That's
going
true.
out if we can't drink?
So what matchups do we have coming up for the Nuggets before the All-Star break? Anything particularly exciting?
Well, tonight, we're running through the Suns. As of 6 minutes left in the game, we are up by 25 points.
Yeah.
The only starter on the court is Will Barton. But tomorrow night is still at home against the 76ers. And
The
Miles,
injured
you said
76ers.
Embiid's out, right?
Yeah, Embiid's out, and I believe Jimmy Butler is questionable.
Okay, so that's helpful for us. We might be able to snag a good win against one of the better Eastern Conference teams. But then we get Sunday off, and we'll be traveling to Memphis for the Grizzlies. And I know a lot of the Nuggets fans out there should remember the first time we faced the Grizzlies, Jokic only took one shot.
The last shot.
That was that game.
We
Okay.
lost. I think we lost 89-87 or something like that.
Yeah.
It was not a fun
Wow.
game to watch. It was low scoring.
But that's
the
the
Grizzlies.
Memphis pace.
Yeah, they play one of the slowest games in the league, and they play very defensively. So it's going to be an interesting game to see if we can play our type of basketball rather
Right.
than their type of
Force
basketball.
them into
And
our
we're going to
tempo.
be at their home too, so it'll be a good test for us, even though it's a Monday night, and the arena is probably not going to be that packed. Which bonus for us,
Right.
maybe we can sneak one away from them, and if we can win tonight against the Suns, which will happen, and then win against the Sixers, and then roll that into the Grizzlies, win 3 straight. Then we travel to New Orleans for the Pelicans. So if we could win,
Get some
what is
momentum
that?
going
1,
into
2,
that
3. If we can win 4 straight, we will be looking real good because we've got the Houston Rockets at home a week from today, and it's on ESPN.
Nice.
Miles and I will be attending that one as well.
Finally getting some more national broadcasts.
Well, I mean, that broadcast was already scheduled at
Yeah.
the start of the season.
Yeah, but
We'll get
How
more
many-
attention.
how many games have
nationally.
we had nationally?
I mean, I don't
3?
have that right now, but I would say probably 3 or 4.
Yeah.
And we're still second in the standings, correct?
Yeah,
Yes.
I
A
think
game.
we're like 3 games
Okay.
ahead of.
Well, after tonight, it'll probably go
The
back
Thunder?
to 3.5.
Well, how far behind Golden State are the Nuggets?
We are
2?
Well,
Okay.
we're 1 loss behind the Warriors, but they've played 2 more games than we have.
Okay.
So right now it's a little weird in the standings, but yeah, we're 3.5 games ahead of the Thunder. So if we win tonight, that puts us back to 4 games ahead of the Thunder. And then we're either a half game or a game behind the Warriors. After tonight, it'll probably be a half game.
That's a good lead this late in the season.
Oh yeah.
Like, the Nuggets should finish in the top 2 as far as seeding.
Well,
Should.
a lot can happen after the
Oh, yeah.
All-Star break too, because we could very well drop 3, 4 straight, while the Thunder have a weaker schedule, and then they could win 3 or 4 straight during that same time span, and then they're bouncing between 2nd and 3rd spot. So ideally, yeah, the Nuggets retain this 2nd spot. Really, ideally, we take the 1st seed away from the Warriors and stay hot.
That'd
But
be amazing.
Being a very logical and idealistic kind of person, I think the Nuggets will probably end up around 3rd. I want to say 4th, but that's pushing it. I wouldn't be surprised for us to get the 3rd seed.
Who would take over number 2? Blazers?
I can see the Blazers making a hard push, or the Thunder, because Paul George is playing lights out right now.
Or
and
unless the Rockets
isn't
continue
even
on
really
their
getting a lot
ridiculous tear.
Well, it's
Sort
not
of,
even the Rockets
sort
are
of.
doing well. It's just that Harden's doing well. Like, I think the night he dropped 57, they lost.
Yeah.
So it's like they're
They're the same record over the last 10, 6-4.
yeah.
So
I don't see the Rockets being in the top 3 at all this year. Maybe 4th, but I think at the end of the season, how it sits, it'll be Warriors, Thunder, Nuggets, Blazers. That'll probably be how it falls. But if the Nuggets maintain their production that they've done throughout this season, it'll be Warriors, Nuggets, and then the Thunder and Blazers will be battling it out for those next 2 spots in the top half of the playoff seeding.
Good stuff.
Pretty exciting.
Any other Nuggets news?
It's been a slow week, so pretty much hashed out all the drama, and
Jokic was snubbed as a all-star
starters.
There's
So,
no center
He'll
for
be
the starters.
yeah. There's no
Really?
There's no Western Conference centers. I think it's
So
Well,
Steph-
is there 2 power forwards then?
Steph, Kevin Durant, LeBron James, Paul George, and Russell Westbrook.
I think
Or no,
so.
James Harden.
James Harden, yeah.
Wait, so is there no center or power forward?
Well, the power forward would be Paul George.
Center would be KD.
Center would be KD because he's 7 feet tall,
Yeah.
and then LeBron
what
James
position
is
does KD usually play?
small forward,
Okay.
power
And
forward.
what is Paul George?
Small
KD
forward.
plays
Yeah.
whatever he wants to play. That's really
Yeah.
what happens.
He's not concerned about position. He
No.
just does what he wants.
He's 7 feet tall.
So they don't do it by position.
He's listed
in the
at
All-Star
6'9".
game?
No, it's about voting.
Yeah.
So it's just the top 5.
Pretty much.
No matter.
It's
So you
fans,
can have
media, and
5
I
point
think
guards.
But then
fans
there's-
fans are responsible for, I think 50%, and then media is 25%, and coaches is 25%.
And then there's 5 alternates. Or not alternates. What's the
reserves.
right? Reserves.
I think there's, I want to say 8 or 10 reserves.
Okay.
Like
5
so,
starters with the
LeBron's
captain.
LeBron's the captain, and I think Giannis is the captain on the East side.
Yep.
So they get to pick their team basically.
So if the top 5 most voted players were point guards, you would have your starters would be all point guards.
Yeah.
Really?
But then they pick out of the
Theoretically,
Western
yeah.
Conference, like, what center do you want?
So you could have like 5-year-old Boykins running out there.
Probably.
I would love to see that.
I would too, actually. That sounds interesting.
But no, I mean, Jokic will definitely get picked. Like,
Right.
LeBron's not an idiot. Like, he knows what the fans want to see, and
And they'll all essentially
it'll
everyone.
be well. Actually,
will get
it'll
playing
probably. I
time.
could actually see Jokic getting snubbed for All-Star selection altogether, and them just picking Boogie Cousins and Anthony Davis, even though
And
DeMarcus,
Gobert.
even Boogie hasn't even played like 4 games yet. Like, but no, the All-Star game in the NBA has definitely turned more into a show than like
Just
a
spectacle
true
based.
accomplishment, if you will.
What do you think the
I
game
mean, I
total
think-
over under is? 300?
296.
No
296.
defense. All
296.
offense.
And a
Oh,
half.
no, yeah.
And a half.
Dunks and threes and
No defense.
Front
zero
flips,
defense.
back flips.
yeah,
It's kind of like a
Throw
Harlem
It's like
Globetrotters
Globetrotters
game.
stuff. So yeah.
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 All right.
I mean, I do think the NBA has kind of mastered the All-Star game compared to the other sports. Because the
They
point
have,
of the
like,
All-Star game
it's
is to showcase
enjoyable
your
to
I
sport.
mean,
watch.
right,
Yeah.
and it is kind of like it's always kind of comical when you're watching an All-Star game and you're watching players try really hard to act like they're trying really hard. And they're not great actors.
Oh, I think there was
like
a time
trying to put on the face of like this is competitive and we're really into this when really they're all just
Well,
like
I think it was. I
having
think it was
fun.
either
Yeah,
Melo's
right.
sophomore or junior year, which is the same for LeBron James. They were drafted in the same class.
D-Wade.
Yes, but I'm bringing this up with specifically the All-Star game. D-Wade was on the Eastern side.
Okay, for the
um,
West, I got you.
So, well, I guess LeBron would have been on the East as well that year. But Carmelo was playing with Kobe Bryant on the All-Star team. And Kobe gave Melo a pass, and Melo didn't want to, like, take away from the other players, and he, like, passed it back to Kobe. And Kobe's like, no, dude, this is the All-Star game. Like, take a shot. Like, no one cares whether we win or lose. Like, show off your skills. Like,
play.
have fun. Yeah. But Melo was young, and he was, like, probably taking it a little more seriously than he should
which
have
I
been.
mean
But it's
isn't
one of those
horrible.
situations
Players did
where,
that.
yeah, like, you're out there to have fun, showcase your sport, but I wish it was a little bit more like the NFL, because the Pro Bowl is strictly like who is the most talented at each position.
Yeah.
right.
And that is what is really exciting.
And
the fans still vote, but it's very, very skill-oriented,
And
whereas
position-based.
the
It's like the
NBA
best
is
players.
just strictly like, who do the fans
Who's the
want to see?
fave?
Mhm.
Who's
Yeah.
the most popular?
And Denver's never really going to get that shout out because we are, again, not that large marketplace.
we're like the kid at school that's really cool, but no one's figured it out yet.
They figure it out 5 years later.
Like he
Yes.
could, he could
Later.
probably,
They're like, oh, I wish
he
I
could
would have been
probably,
friends with him.
That
he could
was
probably
the guy I
get picked
should've been
first or
friends
second
with.
in kickball, but he usually gets picked like 8th, and then the team that doesn't pick him was like, oh, we should have picked him.
What was I thinking?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like that.
Give it a couple years, though, and Denver could be at that level.
Oh, we're still growing. Some more Californians and Texans will come out, and then they'll turn into Nuggets and Broncos and Avs and Rockies fans, and
And on
well,
and
it'll
on it
happen.
goes.
Yeah.
I just don't think the Nuggets have had that sustained success.
Right.
Like, they'll have those bursts of success.
It takes continuous years of really being competitive to build that larger
Reputation.
fan base.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
People
mean,
that
that-
are not just basketball fans, but
The
general
mid-
sports fans who then invest in the Nuggets.
The mid to late 2000s was the longest period where we were relevant. And now we are approaching a new era to where we can either match or exceed that same hype that we received, from 2007 to 2010.
But I think if they can go deep into the playoffs 2 or 3 straight years,
Yeah,
then they'll definitely get that recognition.
you'd hope so. I have very little faith. Like, each year it'll be like, well, can the Nuggets do it again? Like, they surprised us last year. And it'll
How
happen,
long will that
and
be
it's
the
like,
narrative? And
It'll be...
they can
yeah.
stretch it out a long
Yeah.
time.
It all depends on how the offseason goes in the NBA these next couple years, because a lot of teams are going to get shaken up due to free agency and cap space and things like that. And right now the Nuggets are under the luxury tax, and we're sitting on a treasure trove of young athletes and second-round picks that we're otherwise forgotten by other teams.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be fun the next few years.
Yeah. Looking forward to it.
The Nuggets are definitely exciting right now. The Avalanche, on the other hand, I don't think we can call it a slump anymore. I don't think a slump lasts quite this long. We're just falling apart.
They're still in a playoff spot.
They're
the last
they
spot.
Have dropped to
Barely.
5th in the Central
spot.
Division.
Yeah, they lost
5-2 to the Wild. That one just hurts.
And the Senators.
Yeah,
That one's
that was brutal.
inexcusable.
Yeah.
Now we're going into the All-Star break, so all we can really hope for is that the break works some sort of voodoo magic.
When
and
we have
they come back
9 days off, right?
9 days, yeah.
Yeah, because the All-Star game tomorrow, and then our bye week next week.
Okay.
And then we play Saturday, February 2nd against the Canucks at home.
Well, this is definitely a much-needed break. Like I was hoping they would go 3-0 going into the break the last time we podcasted, but they went 1-2. They beat the Kings. What was it?
6-1,
7-1.
Yeah.
But that's not even anything to write home about.
No,
It's the
but
Kings.
they definitely needed that. I thought that would be good momentum, and then they played the Predators and
Lost 4-1.
But they honestly, I thought they outperformed the Predators in that game.
Just didn't put it in the net.
No, Rene, the Predators goalie, he was on fire.
PK Rene.
Like the Avalanche had so many opportunities,
Oh, no,
and
it's
he was
PK.
just on.
PK's something wrong.
Pekka.
Pekka. Hey, Pekka Rene. That's it.
Yes.
There we go.
Pekka Rene. I like it.
I was thinking of the other
Hey,
Predator,
Pekka
the
Rene.
black guy. PK Subban.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Too many P's and too many K's on it. Too.
Yeah, I know. It's ridiculous.
But yeah, I thought the Avalanche actually outplayed the Predators in that game, but Pekka was just on fire. And
Who
then
was goaltending for us that game?
Varley, which he looked good against the Kings and pretty
It's
good
not
against the
hard
Predators.
to look good against the Kings.
The defense just has been awful. Like even against the Wild a couple days ago, when Grubauer was in net, like I thought he looked fine, but the defense was just leaving wide open shots.
It can't be a one-man show
Like that was
on defense. It can't all fall on the goaltender.
That was an awful team game against the Wild. That's supposed to be one of your biggest rivals.
That's what's so disappointing. Is like you had this opportunity going into the break at home, like full house, get a win for your fans, and they just underperformed across the board.
Yeah. I mean, offensively, they looked normal, but defensively, they just looked like a complete crap show.
Yeah,
Well, they needed that momentum going into the break. Like, hopefully they can just take this break and practice or relax or whatever they do during the All-Star break. I don't know.
Well,
Like, if it was me, I'd be like, you need to practice every day.
McKinnon's not going to be playing in the All-Star game due to an ankle injury. So
Yes.
hopefully it's not as
Details of
serious
which
as
are
it sounds.
undisclosed.
And this 9-day break will give him enough time to put him back on the ice, hopefully.
When he could be facing a one-game suspension, depending on the injury.
What did he do?
Well, if you're elected to the All-Star game and you don't go, you are suspended for a game.
Wait, seriously?
Yeah. you
Even
don't
if
play.
it's
That's a
for
rule?
injury?
Depends how... It could be fake injury. The injury is undisclosed.
Oh my God,
We know it's his
that's-
ankle.
This is like the principal's rule against like you can
Yeah.
go to senior ditch day if you dare.
We're
Like,
giving you more homework.
I mean, the fact that we
That's
don't know
the
anything
goofiest
about
thing
the
I've ever
injury,
heard.
could they just be saying, like, hey, maybe it's
Oh
not
my
that
God.
bad. We just don't want him to possibly get hurt.
So did they
worse
send like
in the
a
All-Star
league
game.
doctor to confirm if he's really hurt or gets suspended?
Maybe that's why it's TBD.
Undisclosed
Right.
details.
It's like
That's
he got hurt
ridiculous.
2 days ago, and we still have no information on the injury. It's like maybe it just
I don't know
conveniently
why I
happened
find
during
that
the
so
All-Star
funny.
break
When did he get injured?
against the Wild.
So he came out of the game, though?
He came out, but then he came back.
You finished the game.
Yeah.
Hockey players usually do, but
Right. That's not uncommon for.
That's a little ridiculous. Be like, you're...
Well,
that's
there
worse
was
than the Jokic one.
Right.
Like-
Like that's nonsense to me.
well, there was a,
But at least it's league wide.
Well,
It's not.
I see
Yes.
why. It's to
Consistency.
encourage
If-
players to play in the All-Star game that they were
Because there was a
Admitted
trend
to.
like 10 years ago where people would get elected
Well,
to the
I was
All-Star
gonna
game
say,
and be like,
This
I'm
is
just gonna
my
rest. I'm good.
Every time I come across a rule or in life that I think that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard,
Well, it's-
I have to remind myself it exists for a reason.
exactly.
What morons made this rule?
People
I mean,
Need to
weren't
be
showing
an
up.
I
necessity.
get that rule over the rule that the NHL implemented barring the NHL players from the Olympics.
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought that was absolutely ridiculous. But this is along the same lines where it's like...
It's very micromanaging.
well, I guess it's like opposite. Like, you're playing for our
Yeah,
league
you
and
have
no
to
one
play.
else. But if you choose not to play for us, well, then guess what?
It's like
you're sitting out
a
again.
jealous
Yeah.
boyfriend.
It's like-
That's the NHL.
All right.
Jealous boyfriend. Can't play for anyone else but us.
Not even your own country.
No.
All right, Russia.
Yeah, right. So if they can prove that like it's an actual injury and that's why he's sitting out, then he won't be suspended.
But it's
there
up
is that
to
possibility.
league discretion.
Probably.
It is still like 1984 to me.
But it's like
But
one of the best players in
stupid
the
rules
NHL
exist
gets hurt
because somebody did
Quote,
right
unquote.
before the All-Star break.
And then all of a sudden
When he
they've like
finished
done
the
all of
game.
this marketing and promo for the All-Star game and nobody shows up. It's like that Fire Festival. Can't let that happen on your watch, NHL.
Just want to see Nathan McKinnon walk into the NHL office with a Band-Aid on his ankle and be like, "It's
See?
hurt. I swear
See?
I'm
I
hurt."
got the paper cut.
Someone slashed me.
Yeah.
There's a bruise.
I think it was actually a puck in the ankle
Oh,
that did it. That,
yeah,
that
see,
would
that's-
hurt.
Yeah.
That's real stuff. Like, players have had their ankles and feet broken
Yeah.
due to pucks to the boot.
That, like, if
Hockey
someone's
is
taking a
just
shot.
hazardous. The whole game is hazardous.
Yeah.
I had a scar on my shin, a black scar for like 10 years because I blocked a puck with my shin. With
Worth
my shin
it.
guard. Right?
Worth
They
it.
didn't score. There was no goalie in the net, so
And
I
now
just
you got
went
a
in
story
front of the
for
net
the
and I
rest
was
of your
like,
life.
"Oh,
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
can
but
take
that mark's not there anymore, so we'll never know if you're telling the truth. So we might have to suspend you
I
from the
can
next
show- I can
podcast.
show you
Not
the
really
intent.
being injured, Jordan.
I can show you the indent. Don't you worry."
Well, here's hoping that the break does them well and serves them well, and they come back with I feel like just a comprehensive game plan of how to take the pieces and the players that they have and generate success.
When Jared
I don't even know
Bednar,
what that looks like,
Yeah.
but
I think they're on the fringe of, like, almost tanking. the
I
rest
was like,
of the season.
well, there's always next year. I hate that.
Like, there's
though.
too many
Ugh.
gaps in the points within our division.
There really are. I
Where
mean, the
it's
Jets
like,
are at the top with 64.
if we
the
can't-
Preds have 64, Wild have 55, and Avs and the Stars are at 52.
But, like, if we
And it
can't,
just
like,
keeps
solidify a wild card spot before teams start getting eliminated, like, it's
Right.
just, like, start losing games. That way you've got two, hopefully, lottery picks, like, one from the Senators and then our own.
well, from what we've seen from the Avs, like they should be in, the third or fourth playoff spot.
Absolutely.
They shouldn't be in the 8th spot.
Absolutely. I agree.
When after the game against the Wild, Jared Bednar, the head coach, he said that he has an immature team,
Ah,
which
well,
that's him calling them out. Where it's like, if you're gonna do
Change
this,
your
you gotta
attitude.
grow up.
It's kind of like how the Nuggets were dealing with similar issues a few years back. They were ordering like pizzas and sodas after losses into the locker room. Like, this isn't a celebration.
No.
Like, what are you guys doing? But I
Well,
think
yeah.
it's definitely at that close point where it's like, hey, if you guys aren't going to make a run into the playoffs, then start losing games so that you can continue having solid draft picks, because the Avs are still a very promising team for the next 5 years.
Oh yeah, they got a super young team, really young core. The goaltending they need to figure out.
I'm not encouraging tanking. I'm just saying it might be a strategy to, not necessarily win games.
We could just race. We could race the Senators to that first pick. That way, we could have the 1 and 2 pick.
Well, it's all lottery.
Yeah.
So it's like Powerball.
But hey, the lower you finish, the higher your chances are of getting that first
Yeah,
pick.
yeah. And then if you have two of the lowest chances, then that's like 50-50 basically.
Let's do it. Number 1 and number 2 picks.
Yeah, I'm in.
Oy vey.
Now, I think the Avs will make the playoffs. where they're at in the seeding.
Put their head on straight.
I was hoping they would have home ice for the first series, but that's probably not going to happen.
I mean,
Gotta
they'd
beat
have to
teams
come
like
out of
the
this
Preds.
break just absolute guns a-blazing, and some other teams would have to slump while the Avs are lighting it up. And that just doesn't feel particularly likely to me.
No. They have a lot of defensive holes, and their goaltending has been average at best the last week and a half, I would say.
We'll see. Any other random sports news?
No, not really. Philip Lindsay's kicking butt as the
you-
Pro Bowl
If
social
you
media
do not-
correspondent.
If you do not follow
Superfan.
Philip Lindsay
Superfan,
on
yeah.
Instagram, you absolutely have to. Because there is no happier person on the face of the planet right now than Philip Lindsay bouncing around the Pro Bowl with his cast on.
Well,
Just like, he looks like a kid at Disneyland for the first
Because
time.
he is.
He can't even play.
He absolutely is.
But, like, the thing that I love is, like, he can't play, and a lot of players that would, like, get them down and in a funk and, like, I got voted and it's such a big deal and it's literally the first time ever and I can't even play. He's just so happy to be there that he's like, it's fine. I don't care if my arm's broken. I'm still at Disney World. I'm still the happiest person in the universe. Like, he is on cloud nine meeting all of these players, getting awesome Instagram footage. He's doing a great job fulfilling his role as social
the
media
NFL
correspondent.
created the most BS position they possibly could to ensure that Philip Lindsay fans would not revolt.
Social media correspondents get paid tons of money for various companies all over the world. He's doing a good job.
Yeah, he's doing
You're
a
on his
fantastic
Insta.
job. Yeah. But going back to your Disney World comment, like, he literally is at Disney World.
It's in Orlando.
He's around the corner.
Oh, snap.
And I bet you he's already ridden a few rides.
Philip Lindsay, I need you to go to Harry Potter World.
He has
Get
broken
sorted
wrist. He
into
should
your
be on a
house.
roller
I
coaster.
gotta know if you're a Hufflepuff or a Gryffindor. I know it's one of those two.
Need to know.
Gotta know. Gotta know.
That's a good question.
Ravenclaw!
Slytherin.
That would be a whole other podcast for another time. What houses do all of our favorite athletes fall into? Probably have like 4 listeners. Me and me.
So
4 times.
we
Tom Brady
are-
is the sorting hat. He just puts
It
everybody
roasts.
else in their
God,
place.
you're the
He
worst,
puts everybody
Jordan.
in their place.
God!
Ugh.
I can't even with you.
Am I right or am I right?
I'd rather have Goodell be the sorting hat.
For this, you're suspended for the next podcast.
Oh.
Next
Well-
week we will be taking the podcast off. Correct?
Yeah, we'll probably
for a Friday
be
release, Saturday
taking-
release.
little break from the combo podcast. We might be doing a couple Miles and Gideon Nugget podcast. Jordan and I doing abs here and there. February is a little weird. But we'll be sure to continue putting content out there for you guys. And thank you, as always, for listening. We appreciate it so very much.
Follow us on Facebook, Instagram. Any questions, comments, concerns, suggestions, you can email us at 5280filmroom@gmail.com.
Boom. Later.
Thanks for listening.
See ya.
Bye.